Okay, hello. All right, so today we've got some developing news today. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the developing news with Nicolás Maduro. Obviously, we woke up and um, we heard about the raid that happened in Venezuela, and they've captured the president of Venezuela, um, the or the dictator, I guess. So I just thought I'd give you my thoughts on that and what I think of that whole situation going on there. So I think it's quite a unique situation that's going on there because um, from my point of view, um, I see this as kind of a big it's a big situation because it's like some people are saying, okay, well, it's like how could they, like how could they just attack and bomb this this foreign country and snatch away this guy in the middle of the night? But you have to really dive into it and look at the allegation, of course, is that he was connected with the drug cartels and things like that, and that he was essentially um, largely responsible um, for the um, for the implementation and stuff like that, and for allowing um, all the drug exportation and stuff like that going through his country. And of course, there was all the election fraud and everything that we can look at through that. And so he really represented a really, in my opinion, he represented a big threat to America. And I think, in my opinion, that Trump did he did a good thing in that regard, um, and so I think that ultimately I think it was a good thing. And what I'm surprised about, or I guess I shouldn't be surprised about it, but I think that what what we should be taking away from this is the speed and the accuracy and the amount of um, I guess like I said, the speed and the accuracy and the sheer precision of this operation that they came in and they destroyed the targets that they needed to destroy. They came in and they captured him alive, which is very impressive. His wife as well, and they got him on a plane. They flew him back to the United States. They got him. They got their man. It didn't turn out to be, I mean, I guess time will tell, but it didn't turn out to be this protracted war to go capture him. They didn't end up in this protracted battle, you know, having multiple casualties and U.S. forces on the ground, and dragging NATO into it and all this massive problem and stuff like that. It's just, they involved themselves and they cleaned up their own mess essentially, and they went in, they saw their opportunity, they had whatever intelligence that they had, and of course they were stalking out the area, and they had their ships. Obviously, I don't know what intelligence that they had at the time, but clearly they had been watching his movements, and of course he was taunting them, and he effed around and he found out. Um, and this is what happens when you mess with a country as powerful as the United States. Um, and so it was a good show of force. Now I I have mixed feelings on it because I think that, you know, that they shouldn't be, countries shouldn't really be, I'm of the mind that we should not be interfering in foreign affairs. But in this kind of case, when it's affecting your country indirectly or directly, such as like they're bringing drugs into the country, and it is affecting America in that way, and indirectly it is also affecting Canada, because what ends up happening is the drugs, they go into America and then eventually they work their way up into Canada, and so then it affects Canada as well, and so then that becomes a problem. But then you could also make the argument as well that, why just stop at Venezuela, right? You've also got a problem in Mexico, Guatemala, all the other different South American countries. Um, you've got huge problems, south of the border. Um, I'm drawing a blank as to the other countries, Bolivia and stuff like that, are having huge drug problems and stuff like that as well. Um, but not to pick on Guatemala or Bolivia, but I'm just drawing a blank on that right now at the very moment. Because I've got other lots of things on my mind that I want to talk about. Um, but yeah, so like the thing is ultimately, I think that, um, uh, like like my opinion and look at the situation is that, number one, um, he represented, he was a dictator, he was a communist, so like the people of Venezuela, from what I understand, are cheering, they're happy, they're, for the most part, overwhelmingly happy that now they are free from this, this problem of a human being that was a huge problem for the country. He cheated in the elections. He had a lot of problems. So a lot of the similar problems that we're having here in Canada as well. And so I think it was very necessary. Yeah, and so, but what I'm very impressed about is how quickly the operation was handled and how they were able to get him alive, and how they didn't end up with, um, any like casualties or anything like that, on at least on our side anyways. I don't know about the statistics about their side, but I think it was a pretty smooth operation overall, um, and so that's pretty impressive. So yeah, so I think that's pretty impressive, and I think that, going forward, I think that should be kind of the model for that. But I do not generally support military actions against other countries unless there's an I cannot speak English today. Unless there is a existential threat. See, I can speak English. Unless there is a clear present danger against your country, and in that case, like what he was doing with the boats and stuff like that, and bringing in drugs, like the people say, well, the drugs they're not a threat, but they really are, because the thing is the president's job. What people have to understand is the president's job is really to, um, like his job is really to protect the citizens' lives, essentially. There's a lot more to it than that, but essentially his job is to protect the citizens. And um, the thing is if your citizens are constantly dying from drugs being imported from a certain country, well, then you have to do something about that, right? And if that's military action, you want to avoid military action at all costs. And that's why you try to do it politically. You try to do things with sanctions or with political actions. You try to tell the other countries' leaders, like, hey, you have to clean up your own backyard. You have to do, you have to do things or else we have no choice, right? And so personally, I think that military options should always be the last resort. I'm not a fan of doing the nuclear option, the military option, but but I'm obviously a fan of self-defense. I'm obviously a fan of firearms. I am pro self-defense, pro firearms, and pro standing up for your rights, freedom of speech, all these things, um, and pro defense of your country. And so, if your citizens are dying, if your citizens are being poisoned, if your country is under threat, you need to do something about it, right? And so, if you need to do something about it, unfortunately, if that is the only option that is left on the table, that's what you need to do, right? And so, um, like I said, always try to solve it politically. And if you can't solve it politically, sometimes a big stick is what you need. And that's my opinion on that. And so um, recently, I've heard, I don't know the truth to it, but I've heard that apparently the Russians are now saying, Putin is now saying that you know um, maybe he's kind of joking about, like, well, if if kidnapping leaders or whatever is now legally on the table or whatever, maybe the next thing is the German leaders or whatever, So maybe that's a joke, maybe it isn't. I guess time will tell. But yeah, so that's something interesting to watch. But so Putin's kind of making some aggressive jokes there, but who knows? Um, but uh, but yeah, so interesting developments going on with that. Stay tuned because I have a few other videos that I'm in the process of doing as well. So stay tuned for that.